Sporting Wales Podcast.
Supported by DragonBet.
Your go-to for Welsh sports news and views.
Hello and welcome to the Sporting Wales podcast with me, Geraint Hardy, sponsored by DragonBet. Sporting Wales is co-founded by Gareth Anscombe and Alice Cuthbert, and you can find our Sporting Wales magazine in various gyms, leisure centres and other places right across Wales and of course online. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Now, every week we're joined by two guests in the studio, and this week's guest, the boss, Gareth Anscombe, is back, and also TalkSport reporter Lawrence Mora is in the house. Gareth, welcome as always, but Lawrence, it's your first time here, so welcome to the pod. Are you raring to go?
Oh, absolutely buzzing. Yeah, fantastic. It's been a great weekend of Welsh sport, a couple of football wins, rugby not quite so good. I was actually down in Southampton seeing a battle between two ex-Wales club managers, so yeah, it was a good weekend.
Yeah, Southampton lost, right?
Yeah, Russell Martin was fuming afterwards. Fuming. Told me it was rubbish goals. You can't give away rubbish goals.
Is that what he
expect
said?
To win? Yeah.
Speaking of dodgy press conferences or interviews after, I don't know if you heard this, Gareth, it was on social media last night. Steve Morrison's interview. So the ex-Cardiff City manager is now at Sutton losing, and the reporters asking him questions. That was a hard interview to listen to.
Hey, listen, I've been there with Steve. He can be intense. After a match, Steve is very intense. I have to say, outside of that, I've kind of got on really well with him. But I do know that there's a few of the press boys as well down here who may not have the politest things to say about how he responds in those press conferences. I think he's got to learn. I think as a manager, look, Neil Warnock's the absolute example, right? His team don't win. They don't play well. He doesn't come out and take it out on the journalists. He gives the journalists some fun things, distracts them, throws them away from the actual performance. You know, you get up in the face of the journalist, you're only going to come off worst because they're going to hammer you when it doesn't go well. So, yeah, I think he's got a lot to learn.
Yeah, you can see from the retweets which Welsh journalists don't like Steve Morrison. If you want to figure it out. Gareth, what were you like when if you lost the game? What were you like kind of doing an interview after? Did you kind of avoid it like the plague?
Not really. I think players get a little bit easier than managers and coaches. They don't tend to ask such antagonising questions, particularly if you're not playing well, not performing well. Then usually, in my experience, they've been fairly accommodating. But, you know, when you see coaches and managers like you're just talking about, they tend to definitely get it in the neck sometimes, don't they? So I haven't had too bad. In my experience, it's been okay so far.
Okay. Yeah. I have to say with Russ, so obviously Southampton had lost against Millwall, Neil Harris's Millwall, and so he was really frustrated. But he goes, "Oh, come on, can you go and speak to Neil? Like he's the story." And I'm like, "Come on, it's my job." He's like, "Yeah, fine." So he gives me sort of 2 minutes, and it's great. You know, it's fine.
I think coaches too. Maybe the reason for that is coaches can speak a little bit more freely, can't they?
I think so.
Whereas players ultimately. Yeah. If you want to say something and you feel like it could upset someone or go against the order a little bit, then you're going to be a little bit reserved, aren't you?
Yeah, and you guys aren't doing the tactics, are you? You're not making a substitution. So, you know, it's like maybe performance-wise you're a bit frustrated with yourself or whatever, but actually the buck doesn't stop with you as such.
Yeah, and I think maybe where they can get you is sometimes if you're a little bit emotional, and I think that's when you got to be careful. And you like to think reporters... I think they have to have a good relationship with the players. If not, I think eventually they'll get frozen out to some extent. So you'd think that maybe reporters won't try and get the player into too much bother. Yeah. Whereas I feel like with managers and coaches, for the most part, they're happy to sort of shoot their shot and see what they get back.
Well, sometimes there's an agenda as well with a certain coach or manager, isn't there? You know, that's interesting. This. So before you actually start your interview, Lawrence, will you kind of say to someone, "Where do you want to go with this?" Will you have a little pep talk with them beforehand or not?
I think it depends how well you know them. If I don't know them, it's a quick introduction, but look, you know, winning and losing, you've got your managers, right, and how they feel. I spent a lot of time with Russ when he was at Swansea manager, so there's already that kind of relationship built there from that. I've had some crackers over the years. I think I got schooled very early on by Dave Jones at Cardiff. So my first ever job was Real Radio Wales. If you remember Real Radio Wales, like going back a bit.
Real Radio,
risking it for a biscuit and all that. Yeah. And so I got sent down as a young reporter to do Barnet in the League Cup. Right, so second round, Dave Jones makes 11 changes. I think Gunter comes on as a kid, and the left back as well, who went off to Wickham, Joe. I can't remember his name now. Anyway, So there's this young team. They get beaten 2-0 by Barnet. It's terrible. There's about 3,000 people turn up. It's a Champions League night. Cardiff have put full whack on the tickets. So after the other journalists have asked their questions, I sort of, do you think the fans that turned up tonight got value for money? Oh. It just went for me. What a stupid question, young man. What a stupid question. Have you got any more stupid questions? Or is that, I'm like this young journalist, first ever press. I'm like, sorry, Dave.
and you returned and you still do this job.
Came back. Wow. So I take this audio back to the station and they're like, this is brilliant. So the first thing on the Real Radio phone in the next day is, Dave Jones, what a stupid question. So, did you get value for money last night, Cardiff? Let us know what you think. So,
easy content.
Fun and games. Easy content. Fun and games for managers. Don't diss the press too much.
Yeah. Speaking of managers, Gareth, the main man in Welsh Rugby, Warren Gatland, he's had another loss. He's been speaking quite a lot. He spoke a lot before the game as well. And I don't know if everyone's heard this, but he was in a private or a sponsors event before the game on Saturday, and he said some things that kind of were mentioned on Scrum 5 on the weekend as well, to be fair. He said, we're plugging holes in a sinking ship, 50-50 approach to kind of the rebuild at the moment. And he questioned, should more money be going into buying players or fixing up infrastructure? Where do you kind of stand on his quotes and what he said there, Gar?
Yeah, I haven't seen that article in depth, so going off what you say and maybe a little bit of what I've heard before, but look, as a player, obviously I'm always going to vouch for players getting paid what they deserve and getting the best players. Maybe in the wider context, I think maybe what Gats is referring to is whether the Welsh regions historically over the last 10 years have made those right decisions. And in my experience, they've probably got them wrong more times than not. I think when he refers to sinking holes in ships and things like that, and talking about the wider context of the infrastructure and how professional these regions are, there's a lot to improve on. I think some are going in the right direction, some are sort of still stalling. And we all know budget is a big part of this, but also when you think about the budget, I mean, how many times have regions paid off coaches or are still paying off coaches? That's a huge waste of money. And you wonder in the past, have they made the right decisions by at least doing their due diligence and not reacting? And I think a lot of the times they've been very reactive rather than being proactive and looking into the future and planning a little bit longer term. I think a lot of the times over the last 5 or 6 years, regions have been really reactive and due to pressure have had to snap and make quick fire decisions. And most times I think when you do that, you're going to get them wrong. And I think the regions have done that a little bit. Without doubt, they need help from the union and Wales. And I think both parties, the regions and the union, can improve. I don't think it's all the region's fault for sure. I think they could certainly have a bit more help and buy-in from the union at times. So have they got that right? They definitely haven't. So it's a broad conversation, isn't it? There's a lot to go into that. I think now you see this new investment into Cardiff. You hope they will change facilities a little bit or improve their infrastructure. It looks like they're going the right steps. They've made a couple of announcements already, I think, for the coaching staff. The Ospreys are talking about leaving Swansea.com Stadium and moving to a proper rugby stadia that will probably generate more atmosphere. And the other thing I think he's talking about is the quality of coaching and staff. And I think that is massive. And particularly while I've been involved in the game, you see the amount of regions that have gone through coaches pretty quickly. I think maybe at times rather than reacting and spending so much on a player, I think Gats is referring to maybe at times they'd be better keeping their powder dry, spending a bit more money on getting the man, the right coach, or a couple of good coaches rather than just getting one good coach and some pretty inexperienced guys underneath them. It's about creating an environment that allows young players coming through the academy to really prosper. And I think it's definitely fair to say the regions have not got that right. It hasn't all been their fault. And that's going to be their challenge moving forward. In my experience, coaches are so important. And, I do feel for some of the younger boys coming through, I don't think they've had the best experience around them at times. It's not anyone's fault, but it's just the nature of where it is. There are good coaches coming through. And when you look at the top level too, you can see when guys get sacked, how often coaches go around in the merry-go-round. There's not a huge plethora of world-class coaches around.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the challenges. We want to develop Welsh coaches for sure. But I think sometimes in the past, my question would be, have we always just chucked in a Welsh coach because he's a Welsh coach rather than is he the right man for this place? And maybe that's, got to be, regions have to be aware of those sort of decisions moving forward.
He's obviously said them comments because we were playing Ireland, and Ireland have been through that rebuild and restructure. What in particular have Ireland done, or generally what have they done that has impressed you with kind of how they've created this strength and depth they've got? Because the URC, when you see them play, they're like second or third teams at times, but they're good. They step up and they're competitive.
Yeah, they definitely are, aren't they? And over the past, you look at the likes of Leinster bringing their second, third string sides to South Africa and still winning. So they've got a ton of talent. Look, their ownership model's a lot different, isn't it? Wales have gone down the sort of individual stakeholders, and you've got owners and running each region to some extent, and Ireland is a lot like the New Zealand Rugby Union where it's so much more aligned, and that way everyone can all get on the same path. Unfortunately, due to probably the nature of the Welsh sort of setup, at times you do get a little bit of in-house fighting. So I think the quicker we can structure our format within Welsh Rugby to be a lot more aligned, both parties are going to have to admit a bit of fault there and get some things wrong, but it's about moving forward, isn't it? And we're going through this reset, or we're halfway through it to some extent. That's going to be the biggest difference, I think, is how we can work together for the greater good, not just for Welsh Rugby, but we need our regions to compete. Maybe in the past it's all been just about Welsh Rugby, and we haven't allowed the regions enough to prosper. And when you look at the overseas signings, the Irish teams, right, they just always seem to get it right. They're happy to spend big money on one or two, but they bring a hell of a lot to the table in terms of they're there all year round, which is massive for when the Welsh internationals are playing Six Nations and away for extended period of time. But then they're also there bringing up the young guys because, these young academy players get to see what a proper pro is about. They can be the real glue of the team and allow the internationals to come in and out of windows and jump on board rather than creating the environment themselves. I don't think the Welsh regions in the past have probably nailed the internationals, the experience they've brought in. They probably don't have the budgets to do that at the moment, which is another challenge. But we just got to get aligned. And unfortunately, it seems to be really complicated to do that. I'm not too sure why all the time. And it's about getting the right people in the right jobs, particularly up the top. And then I think that filters down rather than, from the bottom up.
Yeah, it's a perfect time for Gatland to say it as well, isn't it? Because you've got Ireland there who kind of, they took care of business once again against Wales. You were obviously working in the football, so did you manage to catch any of the game, Lawrence?
No, I didn't. I was just hearing the scores come in and thinking, I probably don't want to watch that later. Yeah. That was tough. It was it wasn't unexpected though, was it? I mean, a heck of a side, Ireland. And I think that's fascinating about the ownership models and the way that Wales have gone, because the money is not particularly there for individual businessmen to come in and really be successful. I mean, you even see it in the English Premiership, right? The ownership model there struggles at times to sort of make that sort of profitability. So having a system that suits and works for the overall union seems a more logical direction.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair. And rugby's also in a bit of a tricky spot at the moment, isn't it? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. And right across the board, I suppose everyone's fighting for entertainment value. We've got to get bums in seats, and part of that is making the stadium experience better for viewers and getting people leaving the TV to come to stadiums. But rugby's competing against a lot of good sports, and like you say, with a business ownership model and private individuals, they've got a lot of money. Ultimately, it's a business decision, and then they've got to try to run a profit off it. And like you say, it's tough up there at the moment, and that's a big challenge in rugby at the moment as a product, isn't it? Is how we get it profitable and sustainable. And when we talk about entertainment value and cleaning up the game to make it easy to follow, easy to understand, and a product we're proud of, it's all part of the melting pot. I don't think anyone's got a real magic button and answer. And that's a challenge. When you compare it to football, when football is such a simple game, but the rules are hardly changed. You know, VAR's coming and caused all
Chaos,
sorts of drama and chaos, which are annoying people. But the product is so solid. It's so easy to follow, and it's the world's game, isn't it? And maybe I think, you know, rugby administrators, we've been pretty slow to adapt and make things easy to understand. We've got to bring people back into the game to understand. When you look at the scrum rules, the laws, the amount of stoppages due to scrums, then you're looking at, we're now trying to make the game safer with head contacts, which is great, but that brings in some extra stoppages, and we need the game to be fast-paced and encouraging open play, counter-attacking play. I think that's what people pay to see, not these stoppages we have in the game. So I think it's interesting. We had David Moffat on last week, have a fair crack at a few leading administrators in the game. I wouldn't agree with everything he says, but I do think, you know, we have to adapt a little bit quicker than what we do at times, I think, with rugby.
Yeah, it's an interesting podcast, that one. If you haven't listened to it, to David Moffat, it's kind of one of them, isn't it? Whenever he speaks, you know, it's easy for him to throw the bombs from afar. Yeah. I think some of the points he has are valid, but some put them into practice is very difficult.
Extremely difficult, yeah. So, and you're right, it's easy to cast stones, isn't it? But we've got to find a way to be part of the solutions rather than just throwing stones, because I think it's a game, you know, it's a game I love, but it can improve, and we need to make the game sustainable and profitable, and mostly, you know, the most important thing is people enjoy watching it.
Well, there's no lack of desire to watch rugby in Wales, right?
No, you're right.
There isn't. You just watch national games, and I understand there is that sort of slight difference there, but, you know, football would kill for the type of interest nationally that rugby gets.
Sure,
like, still, you know, you can still make the argument of who's the bigger sport, etc., but it's quite obvious. Rugby can fill a 70,000 seat stadium pretty much with every national game, and Wales football can't. So, it's a fascinating one. So, but you've got to get those people to go to their local clubs and go to their.
Well, it's a fair point you say too, Lawrence, because I think maybe in the past, and it happens globally, but the whole emphasis is on the national team. And maybe what Ireland's done well in the last 10 years, coming back to your question, Geraint, is around the Ireland structures. They've really valued their regional game and put real money and solid infrastructure and made the regional game really competitive to watch, and they're very successful, which has brought in the crowds to their local games and then has a knock-on effect. Whereas maybe on reflection, have we put too much of an emphasis on Team Wales filling up the Principality, which is a great stadium, and not worried enough about what comes underneath it?
And kind of gone, well,
we've gone top bottom, haven't we?
Yeah, if we're successful here, people will come and watch there.
Yeah.
But it's not.
But ultimately, it doesn't really, we're still, I mean, if Wales is successful, you're still going to inspire the next generation. But why can't Cardiff, Ospreys, the Dragons, Scarlets, can they not inspire more by being a little bit stronger themselves, competing, getting 10,000 to fill their stadiums, creating a great match day experience, and bringing it back up from that way, from the bottom back up to the top? Maybe that's something we've gotten wrong, and something that is I think what Gats is talking about is actually, let's address that and improving that.
On the game itself, because we could go on about this for ages, and you know we often do bring it up and stuff, so we'll concentrate a little bit on the actual match. Ireland deserved to win. We kind of knew they were going to win, to be fair, Gar. But did Wales leave some points out there, do you think?
It's a really, I've been thinking about the game a little bit this morning. It's a game that, you know, it's 17-0. It was looking quite glum. Yeah. Again, the boys showed a ton of effort and fight to stay in it. And then you get to a point where it's 17-7, we're hot on attack in the 22, we score there, the game's wide open, which I think would have surprised everyone in the stadium, you know. And then the scoreline is what the scoreline is at the end, you know, 31-7. Did we leave a couple out there? Maybe. I think you could probably argue Ireland did the same.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I felt like they left some opportunities out there as well. Yeah. I thought we defended really with a bit of fight about us. You know, we really hung in the fight. Yeah, look, Ireland are one of the best teams in the world, and it's just where we're at. They're a young group that are learning on the run.
Are there green shoots? Are you seeing green shoots?
Well, I think so, because I think also, you know, the first two opening rounds, the Team Wales definitely, you know, they surprised a lot of people. The Ireland game, is probably maybe what everyone expected. But it's a funny one, because if Wales score at 17-7, the game is wide open. I've seen some reports, did Ireland do it in third gear and how much did we really test them? We could have created a little bit more, I felt. But look, they're a fairly well-structured side that know where they are at the moment, and particularly up front. I think when we didn't generate enough go-forward ball to maybe expect too much more. We tried to go to the area, but didn't get a hell of a lot of that. So physically, we just got a little bit out-muscled, I'd say, and
because they're efficient Ireland, but they're so streetwise as well, aren't they? They're kind of a little bit naughty.
Oh, of course. But
in a way, do you kind of go, that's fine.
But you get that with experience too, don't you? Like when you start knowing where you can sort of push the boundaries, it comes with experience, whereas maybe we're a little bit naive at times and a little bit too nice.
Yeah, definitely.
But look, we got the last 2 games is going to be a big challenge for the boys. Big French team coming up at home. The last 2 games are at home. Italy are going to fancy themselves. But Wales could easily win these next 2, and they could also lose the next 2.
So on that then, if I was in an event and Dewi Lake said the minimum he expects of the team is 2 wins at the start of the Six Nations.
Yeah.
So that means we have to go and beat France and Italy, right, for that?
Yeah, I think I said the same. I think a fair assessment of this team would be you'd be happy with 2 wins.
Yeah. So if we lose to France, for example, and we lose to Italy, have we then underachieved, regardless of how young our team is?
Surely you can punch that either way, right? In terms of performance, and Scotland game was like one side to the other, one extreme to the other. And the England game, there were opportunities to win at Twickenham, and
take Ireland away from it. We've only lost by 3 points in 2 games.
Well,
could have gone either way.
Yeah, right. I think if you didn't win, if you beat Italy, lose to France, you still, regardless, it's been a poor Six Nations, right? Mm-hmm. But when you look at the wider context of where this team's at, the amount of changes, how young and inexperienced a lot of the boys are, then I wouldn't imagine much of the Welsh public would have expected much more.
Yeah.
It's a really tough one to
summarize. Let's ask Lawrence that, because I've got it here, right? As a fan expectation, because you're a football man through and through, right? Yeah. What are your expectations looking in at the rugby world of what the Wales should be achieving this year?
I went into it not with high hopes. I got to be honest with you, pretty realistic. Again, the 2 wins probably was about par. Like, if you don't beat Italy, there's real problems going on. So you'd like to expect them to do that. And then you think, well, Scotland at home, look, we can be really competitive in. And the the France game, can we be really competitive in that? And kind of you look at it that way. The Scotland game was just it was ridiculous, wasn't it? Going from that one extreme to the other. So watching that was incredible. And the England game as well, I think they'd be so frustrated to have not taken the opportunities that were afforded them to get a win there. I think it's in Gatland we trust. I think that's what you've got to do. I was at the FAW coaching conference, and Gatland was doing a talk there for all the football coaches. It was fantastic, actually. Really fascinating, getting a real insight into him and the way he talks and the way he rebuilds. And I think he's still got the fire, and I think he's still got it to turn this around. I just think it's going to take time, and going to have to go through that little pain barrier of the learning experience of the players and get out the other side. And I think this one has got to be taken on the chin, and he's got something to work from. I think as long as you go from this tournament with some green shoots and going, we've seen some players that have stepped up and made their mark.
I agree with that. I think they've shown character. I think they showed more against Scotland than we thought. More, they went to Twickenham that first half. They really good at counting themselves.
And you look at Scotland and what they've done in the tournament. It's been pretty terrific, really. They're a good side, Scotland, and
they're going to beat Ireland.
They're further down.
I'm joking. Gareth's face then.
I think also, no one expected Wales to go beat England or Ireland away from home, did they?
No.
So when you look at their fixtures, they got Scotland at home, France at home, and Italy. Now, pre the tournament, no one would have thought France would go through these troubles. So you almost write off France game. Mm-hmm. You definitely say we've got to beat Italy at home. And then that Scotland game is, you could understand if we didn't win, but you're also sort of hoping they do win.
Yeah.
And by the nature of the game, you left the stadium going, we could have won that, should have won that. Even after a dreadful first half. So, the overall context of how many games do they win, I feel like 2 would be great, 1's poor. and 3's outstanding. So it doesn't really make.
I'm kind of excited
there's no
against the
middle ground.
France game though, because I think they look vulnerable.
Could be
they're
a bad
beatable.
time to play them after that.
Well,
Italy.
yeah, maybe, but also I think when you look at, I watched them yesterday and they were pretty poor,
They really were.
weren't they? But they're going to lose Dante at 12, who's a big influence in the game. Jalibert, who's their second fly half, but a very talented individual. He doesn't look healthy with his coming off, so no better time to play France. So there's going. I think Wales. I imagine with having another couple of weeks to prepare, we'll be thinking if we get enough of our game cleaned up, we certainly have a chance. And I have no doubt, come tomorrow when the boys are back in, they will start. Talking like that, because I do think there's an opportunity there.
And the stadium's going to be loud because it's on Mother's Day. It's going to be loads of drunken mums in there. Do you know what I mean?
On a Sunday.
Screaming, yeah.
Sunday Mother's Day, isn't it? Yeah, right.
No, on a serious note, so France, we could do it. Italy then, that's going to be a 50-50 game that I think as well. It's going to be so close because Italy, they've been really unlucky in the matches they've been involved in. So they'll fancy themselves against Wales regardless of the fact that it's in Cardiff.
Yeah, and mentally it's going to be a different challenge for Wales, isn't it? Because I think regardless of where the team's at, Wales should be favoured to beat Italy at home. So it'll be the first time for this young group that, right, there's a bit of pressure on this one because all the others really, we know we've been written off. And it goes from having a bit of a free shot to, right, we've had 6-7 weeks now to get together, take some learnings from the last 4 or 5 games. We need to get a result here. Depending on what happens, obviously, next week with France.
Yeah.
But I think mentally, that's going to be a big challenge as well. And one that you can't judge, but one that will definitely be there. So it'll be interesting to see how the boys react to that challenge mentally.
Yeah. Speaking of Italy, that 13-0 draw yesterday, that kick at the end, Gar, the shot clock is great. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But, the ball, for those who haven't seen it, the ball fell off the tee. You had 9 seconds to kick it. Have you ever seen anything like that?
I don't understand why he only got to the back of his run-up with 20 seconds to go.
Yeah.
So what's going on for 40 seconds?
Well, you tell me, because I had this conversation.
It couldn't be more Italian if you tried. It was like
It's probably having a cappuccino.
Yeah, well, they
the
the first half, France were just camped in their 22 and just couldn't score. And then they obviously had the red card. And the second half, Italy deserved to get what they got. You felt like they should have knocked that one over. It was just so disappointing the way it ended.
It, right?
And it hit the post, and it was unlucky the ball came off. But you can't be. Look, stuff happens. I don't know how the ball fell off the tee. That does happen.
Yeah.
It's more how do you get to the back of your kick with 20 seconds to go in that environment there?
But you know what? So many 10s do it though, or kickers. You watch them, and they're down to like 5 seconds on the kick.
Yeah, look, my first experience of it was in the World Cup, and it is a lot more unsettling than I realised.
Okay.
So the first game against Portugal, watching a few games, I didn't think it would affect me. It does. You do have to have a realisation of where you're at when you get the ball, because sometimes they'll start quite quickly, particularly penalties. They will start when the penalty's awarded sometimes, and if guys aren't clear on the sidelines, you're taking a shot.
Yeah. They
start, and before you know it, you do get the tee, and there's 37 seconds to go, and you haven't even put the ball in the tee, and it does rush you a bit. And I found myself having a look at the screen to have a bit of an understanding of where it is, which I wouldn't want to do normally. So there is that understanding, but the more, regardless of what happened, I think the crazy thing to me is the fact that, somehow he had 20 seconds ready to kick that kick. How does that happen? So they'll be really disappointed with that, because that's an opportunity gone begging there.
They should be buzzing with a 13-0 draw, shouldn't they? But actually probably sat in the changing room going...
heartbroken.
Well, it came off the post too to add to it too, didn't it? So
when you miss a big kick though, because you did miss it, right? What happens in the dressing room after that then, Guy? You've probably sadly missed some kicks that could have won matches.
Sat in the corner, no one's speaking to you.
Is it like that? Did we give you your space or what?
No, look, I've all the boys have always been very good, I think. I think everyone knows. Look, if the game gets to that, there's usually a reason, so the game is about 15 guys, and as much as you want to be the guy to take that pressure and kick the kick and you miss it, most teams I've been a part of has then been about, well, why did we leave it to this one guy to get us there? Boys are always pretty understanding and realising you're not going to kick them all, are you? And sometimes it takes to miss that one to get the next one. So I've been on both sides. Obviously, when you kick the winning one, it feels so much better. But it's all part of it.
Yeah, the pressure moment.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That's why he plays 10. That's why he does it. Let's park the rugby there then for a moment and switch to football then. Quick reminder of the weekend results. Cardiff 2, Stoke City 1, Sunderland 1, Swansea City 2, the game Lawrence was at. Gillingham 1, Wrexham 0, MK Dons 3, Newport 0. Lots to unpack there, Lawrence. Let's go bottom up if we can, okay? Let's start with MK Dons. 3-0, they're in the mix now in the top 5 for League 2 MK Dons, so Wrexham want to watch their backs. But can Newport, I've been kind of hunting for Newport for a while, can Newport squeeze into the playoffs, do you think? Or is it too many teams in the mix?
It is a big ask, I think. It is a big ask. But look, they're playing full of confidence, and they've taken their form from that cup run and moved it on into the league as well. I was chatting to Will Evans last week. We were doing a cup draw for the FAW, and he kindly came along and got involved with that. And he's just such a great, down-to-earth lad.
Yeah, he's been on the pod. He's great, isn't he?
Yeah, really great lad. And he was just saying, he said we came away from the Manchester United game like confident. Do you know what I mean? Like it's sort of, yes, they would have loved that result to go, and they got the draw, and they went back to Old Trafford and all that kind of stuff. But actually, they came away from the game with real credit. They felt like that they'd really pushed Manchester United, but they haven't got another game to go to. They're just straight back into the league. And he said it just felt like they were on a bit of momentum there, rather than sort of sulking or disappointed or what have you. So I think he's done a terrific job there as well, Coughlin. I think he's done terrific. And they've got Hugh Jenkins coming in, so there's momentum in the boardroom. I think it's going to be an interesting club to watch for the next couple of seasons. I think Newport this season might be a little bit of a stretch for the playoffs, but if they can give it a good push and be in and around it, I think that's a successful season for them.
Yeah. So that Hugh Jenkins acquisition of the club, for structure, what we were talking about earlier, you think that's going to be a big positive for them?
Oh, without a doubt. Look, he did a terrific job up at Swansea. You saw what he built there, and the managers that he brought in, the identity that he wanted the club to go with, and he was right at the centre of all of that, Hugh. He's made a really good signing in Jonathan Wiltshire, who used to be head of comms down at Swansea City. Yeah, and he's in there as a kind of a director and an advisor to Hugh. So you sort of see his imprint coming into how the media side look after the local media in terms of how they present themselves as well in the local community. I think he's a terrific bloke, Jonathan. So so they got some good people in there, and it'll be fascinating to see what they do.
If they miss promotion or don't get in the playoffs, do you think if they don't get promoted in the next season or two, it'll be a case of a opportunity gone missing with where they're at, and like I say, the changes now with a bit of change of ownership.
There's a lot of money in League 2. Yeah, a lot of money across the clubs. So Newport are one of the smallest budget wise. But will Hugh part with some cash, do you reckon?
I don't think it's necessarily that he's not going to be out there spending Wrexham style or Stockport style. You know, it is going to be a built process where they sort of get an identity, get a manager, build into that. Because of that, they've got to start filling up Rodney Parade. They've got to get those crowds up to that level that they saw for Wrexham and they saw for Manchester United. If they can get 9,000-10,000 in there regularly, like the club gets transformed, because that's a lot more cash.
What would they be regularly getting there now?
Six and 7, and then sort of midweeks you get 4 and 5 sometimes, and things like that. So it does kind of up and down a little bit, but
the Wrexham game straight away sell out. Straight and put an added stand as well, right?
Both games, wasn't it, from United?
They landed really nicely on sort of alternate weekends, so you could stick the temporary stand up and just have it for 2 matches.
And the house across the road had a scaffold in as well.
I saw that.
Which is brilliant.
That was wonderful, that.
Okay, so that's Newport. Wrexham then. Like I said to Gareth earlier, they've lost again, and he was like, what? Do you know what I mean? Just to give you the top 5, MK Dons 58 points, Wrexham 59 points, game in hand, Crewe 61 points, Stockport 63, Mansfield 63, game in hand as well. If any of them 5 teams put a run of games together, that could be their league.
Yeah, definitely, and with 3 going up as well. So so it's a really good opportunity for Wrexham to get themselves up, and whether they win that league or not, I think it's going to be nip and tuck right to the end of the season. They are in a little bit of sticky form at the moment. I think this is probably just about as sticky as it's been under Parky since he kind of really got them going, if you like. It's interesting seeing the reaction of the fans, isn't it? There's they've had so much success that all of a sudden it goes, that's it, and they all start getting a little bit bit nibbly at the
panicking,
man.
aren't they? Yeah.
It is. It's quite a strange reaction after, the whole, we're coming from nothing and what a glorious story and journey. And then all of a sudden the pressure's just starting to etch on there a bit.
But in your opinion, Wrexham, they make it the top 3, they get promotion?
They get top 3 this season for me, yeah. I think Parkin is just such a strong, kind of stable, grounded manager that he just kind of gets hold of that squad and they do what they have to do to get that top 3.
Their running still pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. It is. It's as good or as bad as the others. Okay. Really, I think there's sort of not much between them in that respect. But yeah, whether they win the title or not, I'm not quite convinced.
It's going to go to the death, like you said.
So, yeah.
Do you think they care about that?
I mean, well, as a player, would you want promotion to higher league, or does the title mean more to you?
If you've got a Netflix documentary, do you prefer to win the title?
And ultimately, I suppose they have financial incentives to just get promotion, right?
Absolutely.
I'm sure there probably is for winning it, but
yeah,
God.
I think you're going to have a party regardless.
You
win the
would.
league second or third.
It is always nice coming home with the trophy though, isn't it?
Do you get a trophy for third? Well, you get a trophy.
You get a medal.
Playoffs.
You get a medal.
You must get medals. Absolutely.
You can imagine the Netflix season must be just building nicely.
I mean, to be fair, if you're going to look at it from a Netflix
couldn't be any better, could it?
They want it to go to the playoff because there's more drama, and that's the real one. But if you're a Wrexham fan, no to the playoffs, just automatically.
It feels like it just massively killed their momentum because everything around Wrexham at the moment, it's just gone one way, isn't it? And if they missed out after the start they had, it'd be a real shame, wouldn't it? So hopefully they can sort it out.
They'll be fine. I'm feeling confident.
I think so. And actually, I think they kind of it's interesting because that next leap into League One, the amount they have to spend then. If you think of some of the clubs at the top of League One,
some huge teams, historically big teams in League One.
And although Wrexham have got this just ridiculous fan base, which is now mostly based in America, if you want for numbers, it's incredible. Yeah, trying to get them into the stadium and getting that cash in is going to be. Yeah, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky for them. I'm fascinated to see how they kind of they deal with that as they go up through the levels.
Pay-per-view. They're going to create a new model.
Oh yeah, well that's it, isn't it? They would love to do that. I think
he's got his own channel, Ryan Reynolds,
by the EFL rules, unless he just buys the entire EFL overseas rights for America.
Wouldn't put it past him. Wouldn't put it past him.
Does it that way?
Let's switch to Swansea because you said you know Russell Martin, the ex-manager, well. Notts County's ex-manager now, Luke Williams, in charge.
Yeah.
How do you assess his reign so far? It hasn't been there long, to be fair, but things seem to be quite positive from within the camp anyway.
Yeah, results-wise, it's been a really, really tough run since he's gone in. I was at the game when they played Ipswich, and they gave a decent enough account of themselves. That Ipswich very strong. Just on a Welsh, Nathan Broadhead was absolutely superb that day. He's going to be. He just keeps going levels every time I see him this season. He's gone another, and you think, wow, okay. So yeah, it'll be fascinating to see him. But in terms of Swansea, they feel like a team that Luke Williams has just taken over, and they're not his players, which is the case. And he is trying to adapt what he did with Notts County, and he's trying to adapt it to suit the players that he's been given there. If he took over Russell Martin's team at the end of last season, he would have had a really good pre-season with the type of players that play the style of football he wants. Take the chances in terms of their possession, know how to boss possession. But unfortunately, when Russell Martin left, a good number of those players left either with him or were moved on and sold. And the players were brought in for the new manager, Michael Duff, that weren't those players. They were brought in, they're direct, they're a little bit older.
Different style completely.
Different style completely. So now they've gone and reverted back to the Russ Martin style, but the players aren't there. So as a coach, you must be like...
It seems in football in the last 5 years, particularly, a real shift in styles coming into the game, isn't it? The whole Pep style. Yeah, it does, isn't it? It's really gone from it seems, I watch a little bit of football without a ton of football, but you can tell everyone now is all about trying to play from the back, isn't it? Play from the back, hold position. You don't get the ball rather than the long bombs.
And when you watch these teams,
English football used to be about, wasn't it?
aren't good enough to play it, and they're trying to play like Man City, and it is like.
Well, that's my 8-year-old's team. I coach them, and they try and play from the back. I'm like, what are you doing? Get rid of the ball.
I suppose, when we talk about the product of the game, it is so much better to watch, isn't it? When you see those glory days of Barcelona scoring some of those goals they had when Pep was there and stuff, it is phenomenal to watch. The amount of touches, one touch, it's give and go sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It is amazing to see when they get it right, but like you say, it takes a lot of time to coach and learn
and sometimes that clash of styles is really good. So just to go to the Southampton-Millwall game I was at, Southampton had 80% possession. They had numerous more shots on goal than Millwall, but Millwall won 2-1. And that's why Russell Martin was fuming. He was like, how can you have 80% possession and then just give away rubbish goals? And it's true. Like that's brilliant. Meanwhile, the Millwall fans are all celebrating. And I saw enough of those type of games under Russ at Swansea as well, where they would dominate possession and he'd talk about the stats and all that kind of stuff. And you go, yeah, but you lost 1-0, Russ. Yeah. Like every now and again, put the ball in the box and let's see what
results
happens,
matter.
You know?
But the style of play has always been important to Swansea from the Premier League years. But Luke's the guy to lead that.
And I think that's what they got wrong with Michael Duff. You know, he was a bad fit from the start. His football wasn't what the fans wanted. It wasn't the culture of the club and the players that were there. So they had to sort of maneuver all of that. And yeah, I just think it was just a bad mistake. So fair play in a way to Andy Coleman, the chairman, for moving him on quite quickly and going, yeah, okay, this is a mistake we've made. Okay, but they've now got to see it out till the end of the season. Make sure they don't drop into that bottom three, and then just give Luke Williams the summer really to kind of start shaping it and spend a proper pre-season with the players.
Yeah, DragonBet will give us the odds on Swansea for the drop later on. I've seen it already on my piece of paper here. Swansea won't go down. They're far too good.
4 points off the bottom.
I know, but they're too good though, right?
Yeah, in a way. But, you know, look, if they hadn't gone and won at Sunderland, then, you know, it would have been panic stations a little bit, certainly amongst the fan base, that's for sure. People keep picking up points in that. Stoke are dropping like a stone, obviously, as Cardiff found this week. And you've got Sheffield Wednesday suddenly picking up back-to-back wins after they were kind of dead and buried. And yeah, it's going to be a right old bun fight to the end of the season. But I do tend to agree with you. I think Swansea will have enough, certainly at home, to pick up enough points to get them.
Yeah, it's such a hard league, the Championship, and Cardiff have found that, you know, a good start, and then they go on free fall, and they're getting dragged into relegation. 4 points from 6 this week. They desperately needed them results. How do you assess Errol Bullitt then as kind of what he's achieved in Cardiff so far? Because I would say Cardiff are a mid-table team, right. And I think because of the start Cardiff had, a lot of people forgot that. And they got carried away.
Yeah. It felt like, I don't know. I have got no insight into this whatsoever, but it felt like something happened in and around that last international window in November. And for whatever reason, they have just been searching for who they are and what they were at the start of the season since then. And everything that Bullitt does, he just can't quite get right. He can't get right what he had at the start of the season. Whether that's a buy-in from the players, whether that's a connection or with the players with each other, something there just stopped happening. I know he had the meetings with Tan as well just before the transfer window. Didn't seem a happy bunny after that either. You know, he came away probably not what he wanted. His contract is up at the end of the season. He's only on a 1-year contract. I don't know. It doesn't feel like a happy camp. And I think maybe they were waiting for Ramsey to come back, maybe just to give him that little lift in and around it, and then that's kind of gone. But yeah, a really frustrating season for Cardiff. But yeah, they absolutely needed those points just to get them going again.
Joe Rowell said after the game, this has to be a turning point. Do you feel it will be a turning point? They've got enough to kind of push on now, or do they need Ramsey back? Because they've got some good reinforcements, even though they didn't get a striker in January. But Turnbull looks decent. Nat Phillips looks solid at the back. Or is that striker thing going to come back and bite them in the bum?
Every goal that Kiefer Moore scores for Ipswich is another dagger to the heart, right? Again.
But Jeju, who they signed, obviously, he's played in the Championship for Bristol City. He hasn't started. So obviously he's not coming in. If Kiefer had signed for Cardiff, he'd have started.
Yeah.
So that problem isn't fixed, obviously.
No, not at all. He's a good signing. JG, I watched him loads of times, obviously at Bristol City, and a terrific player. He's really well loved, I think, by the Bristol City fans, it's fair to say. Yeah, and a really, really good guy. So he was a good signing, but just didn't know how fit he was or kind of where he's been in terms of his match sharpness for the season. But I'm slightly frustrated. I think Bullett's a really good manager, and sort of dealing with him post match and things like that. You can tell he's a bit of a straight talking guy. He's like, he seems like a good guy. But I've been slightly disappointed in his use of the younger players. He seems to have sort of kept trekking back to the tried and tested, if you like. And I don't think you've got Colwill there, just dying to get him a run in the side to really kind of push him on. Ruben and his brother as well, to be honest. Yeah, to give why not give him a run and just see if there's a little bit more pace there across the team and a little bit more attacking intent. But I suppose as the grind went on with the bad results, he went to the tried and tested, and he went just like, we're going to stick with this and bloody mindedly get ourselves through it. It was
a bit more negative, wasn't it?
Really, it was sort of retreated, if you like, from any sort of use of the younger players. But I don't know whether that's a 1-year contract, whether he's just thinking at the end of the year, I just need to like kind of see this through, rather than there's no forward planning here. Like, I might not even be here next year, so why do I care what the youngsters' development?
Yeah, I think that happens a lot across top level sport, with football in particular. I think there's a point where they need to hit their targets. And then worry about kind of the youngsters. Warnock was probably one of them people,
without a doubt,
to be honest. He didn't play young players. He got what he wanted because he was just winning on a Saturday. That's all that mattered. One guy who would help Cardiff City win would be Aaron Ramsey. Devastating to see him injured again. What do we say about this, Lawrence?
Yeah, I mean, you're a sportsman, Gareth. You the pain of missing out and not being involved, and the frustration of getting yourself back to fitness and then not being able to get out there must be excruciating. Must be really tough mentally to go through. I've got a bad knee. I twisted it playing a couple of weeks ago. I've missed 2 weeks of football, and I'm just gutted. So what Aaron must be feeling is I can't even put myself through it, because as well you've got the Wales qualifiers coming up. He obviously that in his mind. He wants to be the Wales captain, leading Wales out at the Euros in the summer. I'm sure he's absolutely desperate, and I think that's probably a big chunk of the reason why he ended up at Cardiff in pre-season. That, along with his family, and it's not quite happened for him in the way that he wants. So yeah, I just hope he's doing all right, to be quite honest with you. As a bloke and kind of as a family man, because it must be really, really tough to go through that right now.
Yeah, you've obviously had your fair share of injuries, and you're coming back from a serious one now as well, which did have massive effects on you personally and your family, and moving back from Japan. Is there someone in rugby that you can go and talk to about that, like mental health wise? Because you lose your purpose for a period, right?
Yeah, of course. There is. The union have had someone there for a while, working alongside Wales teams, national teams, and then someone you can talk to throughout the training week for high performance sort of standards, or dealing with pressure and things like that. He's brilliant, actually, really open to talk to, and that support's there for all players in Wales. At the regions, they also have 1 or 2 guys that sort of available to talk to. So that is there. But yeah, for sure, it's certainly probably the hardest thing about injuries is mentally, almost more than physically. Really, it does drag you down. It does beat you up a little bit, and ultimately, sportsmen are paid to play, and you do it because you love it. And when you're watching a lot, and like in Ramsey's case, coming back from an injury and it going again, a different injury, it's heartbreaking, really. So it can just be so frustrating. That's the only word to really describe it. I suppose you do get a little bit angry, a little bit angry and a little bit bitter at times, but unfortunately, it's just what happens in high performance sports. And when you're trying to compete at elite level, and the intensity of that level, these things do happen. Your body does break down, and you just got to hope that the work you put in between gets you back as quickly as you can. But yeah, gutted for Ramsey and the Cardiff fans, because like you say, you feel like he's someone that they certainly would have pinned their hopes on, being a real leader. If he's probably maybe not quite the player he was a while ago, but I'm sure he's a real leader on the pitch for them, and maybe during this run, that's what they've probably missed. And,
definitely, yeah.
Well, do you know what?
And he's great for the fans too, isn't he?
Yeah.
No doubt the fans would come and watch him play, because he is an icon of the sport. You keep him up there with Bale and what he's managed to do in that red jersey. And like Lawrence just said, with those Welsh Euro, the qualifiers come in, they desperately need him in and around that team.
Absolutely.
And, credit to him as well, because I'm down there every home game, and he has been there every game.
Well, I was just going to bring that up because it's really, really fascinating watching from the press box where he comes out pre-match and he's like involved. I don't know. Listen, let's hope he's still got another good couple of years in him to enjoy his career. But I think at the other end, I don't know if coaching or sort of management is something that he's looking at as a sort of future option, because it's fascinating seeing him down there on the touchline, watching the warm-ups, almost kind of being part of it, if you like, during that season.
It's an interesting one too, because sometimes players use the time to, like if you've played a ton of sport or a lot of rugby in my case, a lot of the boys will use it as a chance to freshen up because it is mentally draining, all the games and the intensity of it, and it can be a nice break sometimes. However, when you are injured a lot or have had a few niggles, then it can be really tough because, like you said, it's extremely tough mentally, and you can drift from the team. You lose a sense of...
Someone be isolated.
Yeah, you can, and you are isolated by accident. You don't train with the team. You rehab with a conditioner, and maybe if you're lucky, there might be a few other injured boys, which actually help. Yeah, because at least you can have a bit of that dressing room banter, and you can at least chat your injury problems with them, and they can understand where you're coming from. But when you're lonely and you're sort of watching the boys train the field, you're in the gym by yourself with a conditioner, doing stuff you don't really want to be doing, it can be extremely, extremely tough. So. You hope that he can turn around this one quickly, because I think we'd all love to see him back on the pitch.
Definitely. Let's hope Wales can do the business in March and then we can see Rambo in Germany. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. Okay, it's that time in the pod to look forward to the weekend's action, and to do that, let's welcome Mr. James Lovell from DragonBet.
DragonBet, the bookmaker of Wales with the best odds on Welsh sport. Please gamble responsibly.
Hiya, James. You well, mate? You okay?
Yes, I'm all right, Gab. I had a bad weekend. I got the begging bowl out. It was a disaster on Saturday, so we've got a few quid you can lend me.
Did you? I haven't got any quid to lend you, man. You're full of money, you bookies. You win every weekend. So tell me, what went so wrong for you this weekend?
I went to Chepstow on Saturday. Never normally lose at Chepstow. It's my kind of home ground, so I'm always pretty confident. But there were 5 of the races were won by Welsh jockeys. One of the bets was £1,000 at 7-1 on the last winner. And to make it worse, the staff followed the money in. So they were all cheering and singing on the way home. And I was very, very miserable.
What, your staff?
My staff. My staff. They followed the money and backed it. So as it crossed the line, they're all cheering and I'm crying into my shoulders.
I need someone in your staff's number so I can give a ring.
Where's that WhatsApp group?
I should say staff. They're ex-staff now. All sacked after that. Oh, God. But... thankfully, thanks to 2 draws yesterday, the rugby and the Caribou Cup 0-0, we could at least afford to feed the kids yesterday. So it's not too bad.
He does that every week. Have you noticed? He brings his kids into it to make us all feel like, it's okay because it's about the kids. Do you know what I mean? No, I'm pulling your leg, James. I'm pulling your leg. Let's turn ahead then to the action. We'll start with football if we can. I know there's some games Tuesday night. Forest Green, Wrexham, Harrogate versus Newport as well. They're 2 points clear of Newport or Harrogate. So that's an interesting one. Have you got odds for that one, or will they be up shortly?
Yeah, we've got odds for both. So Wrexham are 10-11 to win and Newport are 13-8. And we're also doing a couple of boosts on the game. So we're going 6-4 Paul Mullin to score for Wrexham. We're going 9-4 that man Will Evans to score for Newport County, or both of them to score. 7-1 as a double.
Both of them to score. That's a good one.
Yeah, I like that one.
I might change my charity bet. I haven't heard that, to be honest with you.
Okay,
Saturday, it's a big one. 7-side derby. Bristol City versus Cardiff City. 12th versus 14th. 4 teams on 44 points in the championship, so it's all to play for there. Swansea Blackburn, 17th versus 18th in the championship, so that's an important one as well. And then Newport versus Mansfield and Wrexham versus Accrington Stanley. Talk us through the odds on that one.
Yeah, is it a derby first of all? Because we put out a boost last year for Cardiff Bristol.
100%.
Called it the derby.
100%.
They
derby.
Hate each other, the fans. I would say some Cardiff fans I know hate Bristol City more than Swansea.
There's a generation, isn't there? Like the sort of 70s, 80s, 90s kids who
It's serious, right?
It's the proper derby.
It's a big one.
Proper derby. Good. So that fella on Twitter having a go at me, you can get lost.
Yeah, he's wrong.
Right.
Send him our way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so to win that, Cardiff are just under 3-1 to win the game, but we'll have a load of big boosts on that game, as it is a big derby, as we say, the 7-side derby. Swansea is 7-5 to beat Blackburn, and I know you were talking earlier, they're only 16-1 at the moment to be relegated, Swansea.
16-1.
It's worth a tenner for you,
Juicy.
Gary.
No, I didn't. No, I wouldn't do that. Would not do that. But as you said, Blackburn and Swansea, because they're both down there. If one of them get 3 points, then they give some space for each other there. So
I hope it's a better game than the Cardiff Blackburn. That was the worst game in football history, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, two poor teams playing against each other. That's what happens in the Championship at times. Yeah. No, Newport Mansfield. Then I think I'm going to be down to watch that one actually. Newport Mansfield. I'm going down to watch it. So what am I expecting there odds wise?
3-1 Newport. So obviously they could do Wrexham a big favour, couldn't they, winning that game?
Yeah.
And Wrexham are now out to 4-1 to win the league from 11-4 last week.
Okay. And what are Newport currently for top 7 then?
Top 7, I'm not sure. They lost they'd be about 25-1 now. They were 16-1 last week, weren't they?
Okay.
So after the loss, about 25-1 off the top of my head.
Okay,
And
cool.
Wrexham to beat Accrington Stanley. Wrexham are 8-15, so heavy favourites, and they're going to do it, aren't they?
Yeah, that should be should be 3 points. But we've said that many a time this season already. Six Nations then. How did the betting go with that? Because you had a few specials on for that. Obviously, you had a severe handicap as well on Wales, I think.
Yeah, well, don't say bookies don't ever give you anything, because we said Tommy Reffel to be top tackler at 7-2, and he went and done it. Plenty of people back that, so I'm quite pleased to give out a winning tip every now and again. Try and hide my meanness. So yeah, it was all right. There's loads of money for all the teams, to be honest, but a draw in the rugby was beautiful. France getting beat yesterday, like I said, got me right out of trouble.
Good. Okay, and the URC, we know that the odds won't be up at this stage on the website, but they'll be up shortly around kickoff that day, that morning. Yeah.
Yeah, we have got a couple of specials. So we've got any one of the 4 regions to win is 2-1. So it doesn't matter who, as long as one of them win, we'll give you 2-1 on that.
Yes, we've got Edinburgh Ospreys, Connacht Scarlets, Cardiff Leinster, and Ulster versus Dragons. That's a tough weekend for the Welsh regions, right?
Yeah, that is a tough one.
Well, if we can't tempt you with that, we've got odds on Alex Cuthbert to score a try as well. How about that?
There we go. What is Cuthy? Tell us.
Well, the traders put him at 2-1. I think that's really mean. So I'm going to push it out to 4-1. So 4-1, Cuthy to score a try in the next game he starts in. Or you can have 7-1 him to score a try in each of the next 2 games he starts in.
You going to back your mate, Gar?
I'll talk to him. I'll see how he's feeling.
Yeah, because he was due to start last game, but then he got a bit of a cold, right?
Yeah, he was sick. Yep. I think he picked up a bit of a flu, so didn't train that much. So he had about 20 minutes off the bench. So like James said, he'll need to start to get a bit of time on the ball.
Just quickly as well, you doing co-coms on that game that he came on. Were you kind to him?
Oh, I tried my best. He had a couple of nice touches. He got smashed once by Stockdale, but he got him back. So no, that was a great finish.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
It was a bit of a bore beforehand, but the last 10-15 minutes got pretty exciting actually.
Good. Looking after your mate, that's important, isn't it? Okay, and we've got the game of the week every single week as well, but you've got a rugby and a football one this week, yeah?
Yes, we always do both, but I normally only talk about the one because I can't pronounce half the names. But this week is a very fitting one. So it's Tumble against Kethnaith in the rugby. So Alan John, it's the Alan John Memorial. Alan was brother of Barry John, so it seems very fitting to have it. And the prize is going to be presented by Clive John, who's a regular at Foss and often takes money off me. They're all lovely people. Obviously, Barry played for Wales. I think Clive and Alan both played for Wales B. So it'll be a lovely occasion. And we have got Tumble is the 6-point favourites, so that'll be a really good game down there.
Okay, so any locals get involved with that, or anybody across Wales or beyond, you can get involved with that one as well. And the football game of the week, what's that one this week?
Yeah, the football is between 2 giants of the Pembrokeshire League. We've got Merlin's Bridge against Kilgetty, and it is the prestigious West Wales Intermediate Cup, and it's being played at the Swansea.com Stadium, so it should be a bit of a crowd there as well. And we've got Merlin's Bridge at 1-2 favourites for that. Okay, that's cool, isn't it? Playing like a final in a stadium. Lawrence, have you had the honour of playing in like a proper football or rugby stadium?
Yeah, a couple over the years. A couple of finals and a couple of charity games and things like that. So yeah, Ashton Gate I've played in.
That doesn't count.
It doesn't count. Cardiff City Stadium. Then no, that counts. And then some sort of non-league ones and things like that. So a couple. But it's amazing. Like you're living out your boyhood fantasy, aren't you? We all want to be Gareth Anscombe and running out in front of those stadiums. But
do you remember a moment like that when you played like in a stadium as a youngster?
Yeah, massively. I can vividly still remember actually my first time and just how excited I was all week. Because like you say, it's what as a kid growing up, if you're watching sport, you want to be that kid in the arena, really, don't you? So I love when you see even like the rugby premiership days at the Principality. It's fantastic in the schools in there, and the young kids having a run, boys and girls. It certainly is what inspires the next generation, isn't it? So it's awesome when clubs do that.
To be fair, the WRU, they do a road to Principality, and that is from I think 8 years old all the way up to kind of Division 1, and they all get to play on the stadium. It's absolutely amazing. I kind of get involved with it every single year, and it is amazing when you see like 10-year-olds scoring a try or year 7s. And the standard of rugby as well is through the roof because they just play, they throw it around.
And also like, for the families, for the parents, it must be a pretty proud moment too, isn't it? Because it's quite surreal, I'd imagine. So it's great. It's awesome when you see football and teams and all sorts doing that. I think it's fantastic.
Good. Right, let's get to our charity bet then. I'm going to go. I was going to change it, James, but I'm going to go for Cuthie to score. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to back him.
I'm going to let Lawrence pick one for us on the football.
Yeah,
I think it's time we.
So we get a charity bet every single week. So you can. One of the things, if you could go off one of the ones that James has said and pick one charity bet of the week, that would be good. So the money all goes to charity. You don't get to keep it. Sorry, Lawrence.
Okay.
So trying to build a pot up.
Yeah. So we've got £165 in the pot so far. So I'm going to go for Cuthie to score. So what was that? 4-1. You're going to boost that one, you said?
4-1. Going to boost that to 4-1.
I'm going that. Lawrence, what do you fancy?
From ones that you've spoken about? Or
if
from
you can, that'd be great.
Should we go for a Ruben Colwill and Cardiff 2-1 win?
Okay. Can you give us odds on that one?
The price for
that should be juicy,
That should be juicy. Give me, I'll get back to you on that one, but it's on anyway.
Colwill score anytime and Cardiff win.
There we go. That's noted.
We're on.
That'd be amazing if that happened in a derby. Fantastic stuff. James, thanks as always, mate. I wish you better luck, and I genuinely mean that for next week because we need to feed them kids, don't we?
Cheers, boys. Be lucky.
Cheers, James. Have a good week, James. And for you listening, remember all your betting needs are covered from the lower leagues to the top leagues with DragonBet, the only place for Welsh sporting fans to bet. So get involved with the bookies that looks after Welsh sport, but of course, please gamble responsibly.
I was quite jealous of him being in Chepstow, by the way. Well, so I'm from Chepstow. That's my hometown.
Yeah.
So I know that Saturday was a big day there. They had the Six Nations big screen up, a whole race day and all that kind of stuff. So as I was driving back from Southampton, I was driving through town and seeing the remnants of
We will hook you up with James Lovell. Next year, book the weekend off and you're there. We'll sort you out.
Excellent. Cheers, James.
Good. You survived, Lawrence. Thanks for your contributions. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Thanks very much for having me.
Where are you next in the football ground?
Plymouth Ipswich is my game this weekend. So TalkSport 2 will be comms for the Bristol City Cardiff game, which is the lunchtime kickoff. They've decided that the Swansea Blackburn doesn't really tickle their fancy, so I'm getting sent down to Plymouth for Plymouth Ipswich, which will be a really good game, actually.
It's good for Wales. You can keep an eye on the Welsh boys
That's it, yeah. Back seeing the three lads there.
And Gar, I know you've had a nice weekend in Celtic Manor, chilling with some friends. What's this week? Recovery?
Back training. Just get back into it. Quiet weekend, which would be nice and needed. Just back in training with the boys.
Good. Right. Thank you to Lawrence and thanks to Gareth and thanks to you for listening as well, wherever you're listening from today. Remember, we'll be back next Monday for more Sport in Wales chat, and you can follow us on Instagram at Sport in Wales or pick up the Sport in Wales magazine in various sport clubs, gyms, leisure centres and lots of other places right across Wales and of course online. Or you can subscribe at sportin.wales to have it in your inbox, and please click follow on this podcast so it's delivered to you as soon as it's out every single Monday. Tell your friends about us and share the love, and we'll catch you next week. Wherever you go, wherever you are, enjoy your Sport in Wales week.
Sport in Wales podcast.
Supported by DragonBet.
Your go-to for Welsh sports news and views.